inclined in the user group?
Well, the user group here, we started 2 years ago.
Just 2 years ago. And it's been here ever since.
Except for the very first meeting, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Very first meeting, we
That's not PowerShell.
had a place and they wouldn't let us in.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, that was not a fun time that night.
So we went down the street and managed to find a restaurant that had a couple of big tables.
And this was the city, you know, supposedly a community center that's going to be open for us.
So go double check out the front. Right?
Okay. I guess I'll give him 5 minutes maybe. I'll get started.
You have almost 100 sign up, right?
We had about 40. Yeah, sign up, and then there's there are a lot, aren't there, Tim, online?
Yeah, I don't know a number, but there's a lot of activity.
Yeah, I got actually surprisingly, I got a lot from India that are wanting to start doing this. So.
Is Chris still here? Because we're getting heavy latency. It would be better if we could have an Ethernet connection rather than Wi-Fi.
He just went up to check the front.
I mean, it's like 20-second latency.
Oh wow.
Yeah, maybe 10 seconds.
Oh, it is pretty bad. Do you all have experience with PowerShell? Gotcha.
That's part of the reason I didn't have that last meeting. I wanted to be up here.
Gotcha. Well, literally, I plan on starting right from the beginning. I mean, literally, how do you get into PowerShell, which is right here where I'm starting with the.
Just to know, I mean, the only thing that I've done is I've gone through the tutorials that Microsoft has online with the 2 guys talking.
Snover?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Snover?
Yes. That whole series. So, I mean, other than that, working with the different little projects that they outline on that, that's really all of that.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know where.
That same set of videos is what I have one of the guys in my department going through right now. Looking at those.
I thought they were really good.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked at Don Jones's book on the
PowerShell.
Power Lunches,
30
30 Days of Lunches.
Is that good?
I think it's very good. Yeah.
I thought about getting that. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
it's very good. It's PowerShell 3 though, but still it
Sure.
gives you the basics.
Oh, yeah.
Tim, he's back. Chris is.
Chris, we're getting like 10-second latency. Is there any possibility we could use a Ethernet cable?
We can try. Don't know if that works.
I can tell you PowerShell makes an enormous difference when you learn it.
There's a question from a YouTube
Mhm.
joiner. Can you post a link to the videos that you were just talking about? Where were those?
Well, I'll get the link. Actually, I have the links at my office. I'll post them on the meetup tomorrow.
Okay.
Is it streaming right now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just tell them to Google Microsoft Academy PowerShell, and they'll find it.
Okay.
You're exactly right. That's what they're looking at.
There's actually 2 sets. There's a beginner set, and then there's an
Right here.
Okay. That's all I have.
No, this is our second time we're actually starting to put it all online, so that because typically a lot of people can't get to these meetings, so this gives them the option to watch them remotely.
will you be editing this?
No, this is live.
But the archived recording, no, we haven't edited them thus far. We could, I guess.
All right.
If this port isn't active, we may have to switch over there because I know those ports aren't active.
All right.
Better latency now. Better group.
See. Yeah, it seems much better.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So I see a lot of familiar faces from our last meeting when we had out of Microsoft's facility. So I'm Mick Fletcher, and I'm one of the co-founders of this organization. We're out here to try to help people learn PowerShell. So it looks like about half of you have some experience and half of you are pretty much newbies. Well, we're going to start right from the beginning. PowerShell is a very important language to learn, and it's actually becoming a programming language, not just a scripting language. The latest version 5 now actually includes classes. So it's just basically one step away from actually being a full-blown language until it gets a compiler, which actually, just for your information, there are compilers out there for it. So why do you want to learn PowerShell? Well, the reason is such things as the new nano servers are controlled directly by PowerShell. And without knowing PowerShell, you're not going to be able to control servers. That they're controlled directly by PowerShell. So it is a very important one. It also gives you all kinds of automation techniques. Believe me, it's helped me drastically in my job and being able to automate processes. So the first thing is PowerShell references. You always don't feel bad about going out there and using references. There's 3 reference sites that I use, and I still use them today. They're ss64.com. That's one of them. And the second one is, of course, msdn.microsoft.com /PowerShell. I use that one quite a bit. And then the third one that I use is computerperformance.co.uk. They have an awesome database. If you need to know what a commandlet's doing, go right to any one of those 3 sites. And preferably, my own preference is SS64. I think that's the best one.
What was the last one? I'm sorry.
The last one is computerperformance.co.uk. And those are just my own preferences that I've used over the years. PowerShell groups, even now, I still go out for PowerShell groups and I ask questions besides anything. So the 3 PowerShell groups I use are all on Facebook, and they are awesome help, and you get a lot of the PowerShell MVPs that post there on a regular basis. Those groups, all you have to do is type in PowerShell in Facebook search. The first one literally is called just PowerShell. The second one is called PowerShell Scripting. And the third one that I use is Scripting Guides. I know you all heard of that one. Those 3 groups I post regularly, and people help and out there any questions you've got.
You don't recommend PowerShell.org?
PowerShell.org is great also. I'm a Facebook person, so I post a lot of my stuff, but yes, PowerShell.org is just as good, if not better. The next thing that we want to do is, before we get into PowerShell, you want to know how do you pull PowerShell up. Well, we got our command line right here. You just open a command line up, type in PowerShell, and voila, you're in there. The first thing that you want to do once you actually get into PowerShell is make sure that your scripts can actually run. First, what you do is you need to come in here and you're going to get your execution policy. I'll set it remote side.
I noticed that you got it, but you didn't say it. You need to start with an administrative mode.
Yes, you do. Yes, you need to run your command line as admin to be able to make these changes. That's a good point, definitely. Typically, you'll start out, this will be restricted. So you definitely, I've always set the firms I worked at to remote signed, and that works perfect. It's an intermediate. So that's the first thing you want to do is you're going to get your execution policy. Then you're going to come in here and you're going to set your execution policy. And that's where mine's already set to remote signed, but I'm going to go back here and reset it to remote signed.
So question, just playing around with it now. Mine actually said restricted, so that means I'm not in admin rights.
Well, what you'll need to do is make sure that you run cmd.exe as administrator on your machine. Then you can come in here and make that change at that point.
Could you please boost the text font a couple sizes up?
$24 good?
What was it now?
It was 20. Is that good?
Bigger.
Yeah, make it obscenely large.
All right. Is that better right there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so basically that's how you set your execution policy. Until you can set that, like if you leave it at restricted, you're not going to be able to do much in PowerShell. So once you get that, then you're probably going to want to know what version of PowerShell am I running on my system. Well, once you're in here, all you have to do is type in $ and PS version table. As you can see, I'm using PowerShell 4. It'll give you the level or which version you're actually running on there. Which PowerShell 2 is what came with Windows 7, so that you're going to have a lot of your basic scripting. If you're just getting started scripting, PowerShell 2 is more than sufficient.
You can upgrade it 4 on 7.
Yes, you can. Yeah. In fact, no, only 4 is the highest you can go, which is why this system is 4. It's the Windows 7 system. Yeah, good point. So that will give you your version right there that you're running, and as I was saying, PowerShell 2 is typically sufficient for a beginner. Basically, when you move up in versions, you're getting a lot more commandlets included with it. So the next thing is we're going to go in here and we want to get help. Well, that's literally what the command is, get-help. Anytime you need help on a commandlet in here, you can come in here, you can type in get-help. And let's say I want to do set an item. It'll give me in here, it will give me the syntax that I need. It'll give me the all the commandlet that I can use, all the fields for the commandlet in there. So that will help you, give you an idea of what you can run or what's available in that commandlet. So let's say, well, let's go over what a commandlet is. A commandlet basically is a verb-now. Your first thing you need to think of is when you're going through your commandlets is, let's say you're using the item commandlet. Item is basically a registry key, a file, a directory, and then your verb is going to tell you what am I going to do with that item. For instance, like am I going to set it? Am I going to get it? Am I going to create a new one? Am I going to remove one? That's the kind of mentality you think of when you're writing scripts in PowerShell. It's verb-noun. So let's say I'm gonna use the get-item. Well, let's try the new -item. Create a new file. So I'm just going to run the new item straight from command line, and I'm starting straight from command line just for the fact that that's how I learned PowerShell. I didn't go straight into scripting. I started replacing using DOS command line straight with using PowerShell instead. That way I got used to the actual syntax, used to using the commandlets, and before I actually took it in where I'm literally writing long scripts. It just gives you, at least for myself, it gave me a much better understanding of the language. So if we go in here and we're going to create a new item, as you can see, the moment I type in just new dash item, it prompts me for the path that I'm going to create it in. So let's say I'm going to create it. New item right on my desktop, and I'm just going to call it test.text. It's going to prompt me for another one. I don't want to create another one, so I'm going to hit enter. Now, as you can see, it's prompting me for the type. It's wanting to know what am I wanting to create. Do I want to create a file? Do I want to create a directory? So I'm going to type in directory. And there you go. As you can see, it created it's actually a directory called test.text. There. Minimize the screen. You can see it right there. And it was created right from the command line in PowerShell. So let's say I want to create, I'm going to do that, and then we're going to call it file, and there it created an actual file. Now I did having PowerShell automatically prompt me, but the next stage after that, you can see my text file is right there. The next stage after that, I want to write it in one smooth command line there in PowerShell. So if I do new dash item, and then you can go ahead and put your dash path in there. And then I'm going to, as you saw there, it asked me type, but in here I actually have to type in item type. And file. There you go. It created the test02.txt on my desktop for me.
If you don't put in item type, it'll ask.
It will, if you don't put in item type, when you're doing it from the command line there, it will actually default to a file. Now, the other, if you do just new dash item straight from the command line and you hit enter, it will prompt you at that point. But if you don't and you put it in here, yes, it'll prompt or default to a file at that point. And as you can see, it created my other test files right there, straight from the command line. Now let's say I want to get rid of it. All you have to do is type in remove dash item. You type in the same path. And most of the time when I'm writing these, I type in -4s just so that I make sure that it actually gets deleted. Because there are times, let's say it's read-only, that it's not going to delete it. But if you have a -4 in there, that forces it to be deleted. You come back here, and it's gone. It's that easy, and all I'm doing is using the item now to control my files. I can do, as you saw, I can do that with directories. You can even use this for registry keys. You could add, remove, change a registry key. You can copy files from this, copy dash item. Item is a pretty powerful tool out there that a lot of us, when we write scripts, a lot of the scripts, at least that I've written, are file management. So we go from that, and then we're going to get into actually scripting. And the way we do our scripts is, you can do them from like a notepad. You can write a PowerShell script from any text editor, but Windows PowerShell ISE is included with your operating system. You just look up ISE and execute that. We're going to come in here and we're going to start writing a little script here. So let's say I want to create a new item. And as you can see, now once I'm using the ISE, so when I type in dash, it gives me a drop down. And it shows me everything available for this commandment. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to type in, select the path.
Hey, Nick.
Mhm.
Sorry to be so needy here. We have a lot of people in the YouTube. They're saying that the video is really blurry now. I think it may be a reflection. There's so much white on there. Could you maybe move the split bar up really high, just exposing a little bit of, you know what I mean? Just something to,
Kind of like that.
I'll bet that helps.
Change the color maybe.
That would be even better, but.
I don't know if we can, I've never changed the color. Maybe so. How's that? Turquoise?
There. It's more than that.
Does that look better?
They say no, so it may be a bandwidth or streaming issue.
It may be.
Yeah. So thanks for changing it though.
Yeah, no problem. That probably will look a little better, I would think, too. Okay, so we're going to start doing our script here. So, and as you can see, so after I did my path, now when I do my other dash, it drops down the rest of the options in here in the command line. So I'm going to force it. All right. And now, one of the things you're going to use a lot in PowerShell is your if statements. You use that quite a bit. So we're going to create the text file first, and then we're going to come in here, and I'm just going to write one that says basically if the text 3 exists, let's delete it. So we're going to do, one of the very common ones you're going to use is test path. Test path goes in and basically tells you whether whatever you're testing for, a rate key, a file, directory, if it exists, and it returns a true or a Boolean value of true or false back. And actually, as you can see, so now we're going to be using the same file over again. So instead of actually having to type that whole thing back out, we're going to assign it to a variable here. Well, making a variable is really, really easy. All you have to do is type in $, and I'm going to call it test bar. And then we're just going to copy this out. And this is how you can actually, so once we create this, then we can actually put our variable down inside the command. And now it will actually use that value. Now we can reuse that value again here. Now this returns a true or false. Personally, because I'm more explicit in when I'm writing code, you can accept it right here, but in my own preference, I actually have it where it goes in and does an equal true. That's just my own preference. When I write, most people would say, if they're writing like an if statement like this, they would just say if test path, test bar, and then if that's going to say if it's true. I'm just like writing my explicit when I'm going back. I try to make my code as readable as possible when others come in to read what I'm writing. And
I don't think that was a good choice of colors. Is
That
it?
color is bad, would it equal?
Not
yeah,
enough contrast. You can go back to white, Mick.
okay, all
I'm
right,
just,
That's doing one.
we've got some other issues over here.
okay. I think you're right on that. That better?
Yeah, we can see the equal sign now. We couldn't earlier.
Gotcha. Yeah, it even faded out here on the laptop a little bit. So
Now, is PowerShell case sensitive? So it's test bar, is that going to always have to be capitalized?
it doesn't have to be. You're typically, like, I use PowerShell Studio, and PowerShell Studio automatically capitalizes for me. But no, it's not required to do that.
What's PowerShell Studio?
PowerShell Studio is a full-fledged development software platform for using PowerShell, and I have to say I bought it back in June myself, and it's well worth buying. It has a compiler built into it, compiles your scripts into executables. I mean, it's full-fledged. You can create windows with it, GUI windows. I mean, it's just endless what it provides pretty much. So I definitely highly recommend it. So basically, what we're going to do here, so we're testing to see if that file exists. It's already been created. And then if it exists, we're going to remove it. And we're going to say to force it to be removed. So when I save this, so what I'm going to do is, just to make sure the first part of it runs, all I'm going to do is comment this out. The way you comment, and there's actually two ways in PowerShell to comment. You can put a pound sign in front of it, or hashtag. You call it that. But you can put a hashtag in front, and that comments your scripts out. Now, if you've got, typically on most of my scripts, when I write them, I'll come in and I'll put like the name of the script, the author, date, all that info for somebody, and then a synopsis. If you're going to do that, you're going to have multiple lines in your script. You can actually come in here and you can use that simple, and then the pound, and then another pound when you come down, and that will, everything in between those becomes commented out. It's all a comment in there. That field is. So basically, I've just gone through here, and I'm going to comment that out. We're going to create the test3 text file. And to run it in here, we can either hit F5, or you can just click right here. And
Prompted for type.
oh, did it? Ah, that's a good catch. Really good catch. So as you can see, I did not put the type in, and it's asking. So if I'm going to stop this, you can kill it right here, just like that. And then we can come in here, and we can put the item type, and we're going to create a file. And there you go. And if it's just one thing, when it returns this on the output of it, if it's a directory, you're going to have a D in this field right here under the mode. And if it's a file, you're going to have an A. Just a quick FYI on that. So we know it's actually gotten created on the desktop now. So let's say we want to go in here and assign this output to a variable. Well, what we can do is, what we're going to do, this directory, we're going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call it directory. And we're going to do a dir. A lot of your same commands that you use in DOS work right in PowerShell, like dir, cls. Most of your commands right there, change directory, remove directory. You can use those commands and many more straight in the PowerShell command line. So we're gonna assign a directory to this. I'm just gonna comment this part out. So it's gonna get our directory listing. We're gonna run this. All right, so I want to see what's actually gotten in the variable directory. So all I have to do is type in directory. That's all you have to do to see what the output is in your variable. Just type the variable name out and then hit enter. So we're going to rerun this. And there we go. That's what is contained in the variable directory. So one of the nice things about PowerShell is now we got a list of everything in that directory that it took down. We can actually go in here and these fields at the top, like mode, last write time, length, those are all fields in there that we can directly access and omit the others right out. So let's say, for instance, let's say we only want to display the names. We're going to come in here and type in directory dot name.
Is this case sensitive?
No, I'm just typing in.
The field name is case sensitive.
Is it? I've never. You may
I
make
knew
it
it was a lowercase.
Okay. Well, let me run this first. So there you go. There's the name, and we'll change that to a.
Still red.
Yeah. I didn't think it was case sensitive, but in some instances it might be. But yeah, as you can see, so it only pulled up the field there of the name field. So it gives you direct access into that specific field of the directory. And that happens in most data sets that you assign to a variable and capture in there. You can do a variable dot, and if you know the different fields, you can call that specific field when looking at when assigning. So let's say, all right, let's say we're going to do another if statement. So we got the directory here. Now we're going to do, let's say, if directory dot name, and now your operands. That's a totally different thing when you start using PowerShell. Your operands, you do not have, like in C and all the other languages, where you use symbols. They're all in word form. So like an equal sign in C is -EQ in PowerShell. It takes a lot of getting used to at first, because you're still thinking in the symbol, but it's not. So like, for instance, you've got and, this is the whole list right here. You've got contains, which is a very powerful tool in PowerShell. Equals, EQ, greater than, LT for less than, then you got LTE for less than and equal, GTE, greater than and equal. So your operands, it's getting used to the fact that you're using letters instead of symbols on there. And believe me, I still at times, because I cross-write in Objective-C, and I still accidentally use symbols, even to this day. So let's say we're going to do equals, and we already know that it contains links, so links, and anytime you do an if statement at the very end, you always have to have the parentheses there. But in order to start your then, you're using a squiggly bracket, an open squiggly bracket, and then a closed one. I always go ahead and put both of them in before I start putting whatever is going to be inside the if statement. So I'm going to come in here, and then I'm just going to write an output to the screen. So I know a lot of PowerShell guys don't believe in this, but I'm a right host person. The reason I use right host is because the way I write my scripts is there's no way around it. Right host, I color code a lot of my output, the screen. Like I do a lot of installation type scripts, and I want to know, hey, did it install successfully or was it a failure? And when I'm like on my outputs, if it's success, literally the word success is color coded in yellow, or failure is color coded in red, so it stands out in the whole list installs. So that, if you wonder, that's why I'm a big right host. And when I was in at Microsoft Ignite, I talked to Jeffrey Snover up there, and he definitely verified there is no way around if you need to color code your output. You have to use right host. But so I'm still a right host person. So right host basically will let you write any output to the screen that you want. And which you'll see right here, that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to right host, write the word success to the screen. And save this, run it. As you can see right there, it found that there, hey, there is a file there called links. So it wrote right to the screen the word success.
How would you make that success be yellow or green or whatever?
Good question. So if I want to come in here and just get these commented out, and I'll show you here. So there you go. There it just displaying success. So let's say we want to come in here and color code the output. We would do dash foreground color, and let's say we want it red. There you go. Gave you a red output. So that's the basics of writing an if statement. Anybody have any questions so far?
A comment more than a question. I'm worried that the scripting stuff is way outside the beginner's scope. You started off with get help, I think. Could you go over get command and get help at some point?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure. So let's say I'm stuck right here on this. In using the ISE, you can actually come down and use the command line part directly. You can enter your commands in this part. So like Tim was saying, let's say we want to use get-help. And we're going to do right host. Apparently I hadn't updated my helper file. So as you can see, it's coming up here, and it's giving me everything that's possible in there. Like I was going over, like you were asking me about the foreground colors and how I color code my outputs. Well, it gives you there the all your options, like in background color, foreground color. But of course, all that's also available when you start typing your commandlet in up here in the actual scripting part. That's all available there. Also, it helps you as you're going along writing the command route in the PowerShell. Any questions on using the get help? The what? The helper, the help file. Yeah, when you let's see. So it automatically prompted me. I'm typing in the right spot. See, that one's update dash.
To be update that, so
Yes.
dash 4 is dashes.
How often would you update help? I mean, how often would you update?
I update mine maybe once every 6 months. That's, I mean, it really depends on how much you use it. Probably
Talk to Jeffrey about it. He'll tell you to update help if you're working and you run into a problem, because they're constantly adding to the help file, constantly.
Mm-hmm. And they do. You're right. There's updates from what I've heard as much as weekly on that.
They write more help than they write code.
So that's a good point right there. That's how you can definitely keep your helper updated on here.
What about if you wanted some examples? Is there like a dash example or dash full to give you more?
You're saying like how to use the command line?
Yes.
Are you saying like you want to see how it's being, well,
Not
actually,
help actually, but let's say get whatever, get item or get.
you can come in here, that's part of what's included in your ISE. They have a helper on here. And I'll probably better kill my script first. There you go. So it's the show command add-on there. And this is probably what you're talking about. This gives you the list of every PowerShell command line that you have available. So you need, like if you want to say, let's see, yeah, get date. So when you click on get date there, it brings up all the fields available. And you can enter those, whatever data that you want to, actually be in the script in these fields, and then you can insert it directly into the script, straight from this helper.
That's not what I actually meant. I meant more from the built-in help. So you go get help dash get help, sorry, get date dash full or dash example.
So you're talking about like get help and then
Get, what is it, date that you have there?
oh, sure.
And then dash full, to give you examples or the full range of help that's built in.
All you want the examples, you can do.
That dash examples.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I've always gone out to SS64, and I've always found that they have awesome examples out there.
Okay.
That's why you probably don't hear me speaking a lot about Get Help, because I've actually used that website a drastic amount. For getting
I'm not familiar with that subject.
It's they have some awesome, and they have an actual example script down at the bottom of how the command was used in it. That's been my favorite.
Is it specific? Oh, does it have examples for like applications that you might be using PowerShell for? You know, like AD or SQL link. You know what I mean?
It doesn't. Let me just pull it up here and I'll show you one example of it. So let's say we're going to use the clear host, basically CLF. Well, that's not a good one. Get date. So there you go. On the site, they show all your fields, the syntax of it, and then they show you down here like how you can actually write the command line out. Like if you want to assign it to a variable, like the day of the week, they show you right here good examples, and then at the bottom down there, they actually show you some, they're basic examples, but they kind of get the gist of how to use it over to you.
Mm-hmm. I see how that might be useful,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that the help is probably good. That's built in as well.
Definitely.
There's also a way to get a window open from Get Help that allows you to see all that stuff in the folder that separates it from the work that you're doing. If you've got to do a window, you can move that help file over to the other window, and that way you've got the same stuff you got here.
Sure.
On line 19, do get help,
Yes.
get child item, let's say, space minus show window.
Yeah.
I use that all the time myself too. Lately, it's taken a long time to bring up the window though. In V5, it's really
you
slow.
can highlight that one and press
So
that
that's
button,
what you're
right?
talking about right there.
If you have two monitors, that's really helpful.
Yes.
The more modules you load, the longer it takes to load this window. If you've got a lot of modules loaded, that'll take a while.
Yeah. Which that definitely makes sense.
Show us how not to load modules.
Yeah,
Only load the ones you need.
exactly.
Are they easy to swap in and out?
Yes, and as you move up in versions, the modules self-load a lot of times.
They do, yes. And there's a basic command in there, import dash module, that you can use, and then you can actually remove the module at the end too.
If you got certain, if you got a server that has specific things loaded on it, the modules will load automatically when you open PowerShell just because the applications are there.
Yep. It's like I've written one SCCM PowerShell script, and basically what it does is it loads the modules, the SCCM modules, and then it does what it needs to do, go out to query the server, and then it unloads those modules, and then continues on with Orchestrator from there. Perfect example of loading and unloading, so it takes some of the resources away from it.
Is there some monstrous list of all the modules that can be run?
There is.
They would be monstrous.
So there's a help file full of modules.
There is, definitely. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
And it's growing every day.
Yes. If you're interested in modules, you can go, which will be down the road, of course, but Chocolate. Chocolate is a big repository out there that I've used a little bit. But yeah, that's, I haven't used Get Help on this a whole lot, but it's been a long time. But I just, in my own preference, I always liked using the web pages, using my dual monitors.
What you need to do for your benefit is compare that show window to what you're seeing on SS64, and I think you can find it basically out there.
They pretty much are, yeah. I mean, from what I saw right there, that's pretty much the same thing. You know, of course, that's probably nice if you're using a single monitor too.
One of the things you do have to understand on loading modules, if you load a module, you're not getting the help. You have to update the help to get the help for that module that's now up to date.
Yes, if there's help for the module.
Yeah.
A lot of modules that especially if they're modules that you have to download, help won't be included in a lot of them out there. It depends on if the person that wrote it includes that. That's a good point.
If the modules were written by Microsoft engineers, there will be help.
Right. Right.
They're required to build help as much as they are the module.
They definitely are. You're exactly right about that. So let's say I'm going to go in here, and we know the directory contains a list of items in it. So there you go. We know that contains a list. Well, let's say we want to go in and go through that list. We want to iterate through each item in the list to search. Well, that's really easy in PowerShell to iterate through. So what you do is you use the for each command. So we know the name of the item or the variable that houses all these is directory. So for each, we can call it right here, for each file in a directory. So now what's going to happen is the for each command is going to load in everything that's stored in the directory command or directory variable. And then it's going to assign each iteration as it iterates through all the items in there to the variable file. So we can come in here and actually type in file. And if we run this out, we come in here and run this. Oops. All right, so it still gave us the same listing, but what it did was it processed each item in there one at a time as it iterated through. That's basically what a for each statement does for you.
Did I miss where you define the files, dollar file?
Let's see. File is the way this works is so our directory is already populated. And one thing that some people get mixed up in this, speaking about populating this is a snapshot. A directory is not real time. It's a snapshot that we took when I ran this script initially. So whatever, when it went through the part where it said directory equals dir, if it's changed, it's not going to have the changes in that variable. So just an FYI on that. So what happened is, so when we got down to the for each statement, so basically the for each is going to take for each item in directory, let's assign that item to file. So it's going to go through, it's going to start out with item number 1,
You didn't have to name your variable file though. You could have named it $1.
Exactly. You can name it anything that you want.
It's not a explicit declaration.
Right. You're exactly right. I just, pretty self-explanatory by naming it file. So, but yes, you're right. You can name that anything you want. Personally, when I write my own scripts, I always declare and dispose of my variables just from what I learned back in computer science days. But you don't have to. I do. Here's the reason I do it. I just declare and dispose variables because if you don't, you're listing grow in the variable column when you're debugging. And so when you dispose of a variable, it disappears from there.
I remember right, almost any looping command, any repetitive command, like what is there, for each, there's while loops. You do loops. You don't have to declare the variable name.
No, you don't. You don't. I mean, this was when I first started learning, this was the first one I learned when I needed to iterate through a variable. Because it seemed like to me it was probably the easiest of all the iterations in PowerShell, the for each command is. So that was the main reason why I figured, you know, it's a good starter when you're starting out in there. So as you can see, I mean, once you can get these things down, I mean, your scripting.
Can you put a line feed after each in that for each statement?
What do you mean?
Print out the line, put a break so they're double spaced.
Oh, yes, you can. So if you want to come in here, you can literally do a write host and put nothing after. So you could come in here and save that.
Is double spaced.
Yep. Write host will put an additional line in there.
Line feed. Carry.
Yep. So questions? Any questions on?
Not at this
As
time.
iterator, you can cause it to stop at each line so that you have to respond to that.
Yes, you could. Definitely. You can get it to prompt you in here also.
If you've got a long list of things that you're looking for one thing specific, you might want to do it.
Exactly. Like if you're saying if you use the get dash yes, get input. Oh no.
Feedback.
Tim, I've had a brain fart here. It's the get dash for prompting.
Read
Oh.
host.
Read dash host. That's it. Read dash host prompts you. That's it. Basically, the way you would type if you want to get prompted in here, so you're going to assign the input by the user. So let's say we're going to call it input equals read dash host, and that literally then will prompt me for whatever I'm wanting to be prompted for. And I can enter, and then it will automatically be assigned to the variable input. So what are some things that that I haven't covered that you all are wanting to learn in PowerShell?
Use string concatenation for the input thing there.
So you want to be able to, so basically what you're asking is you want to be able to take two string values and put them together. Yes, we can do that. So let's say we're going to create another. How about we just demonstrate? How about I just take the names of the files and I just put them all into one string? Does that sound like what you're looking for? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to call it big name, and we're going to do $file. Well, we're going to do big name plus file. So what this is going to do is this is going to come through here each time it iterates through, and it's going to add whatever that value file dot name is. It's going to add that value to this variable. That's how it will actually. And so then we'll come back after the for each statement is done. Then we'll do big name and have it output that. So let's do.
Would scope be an issue or no?
On,
Big game being outside of the 4E?
no, what we can do is, see, right now, you're probably thinking of functions. Right now, it's just one small, it's a small basic script. So scope isn't really going to, we're not declaring global items and such right yet on this. But yeah, it's gonna, basically what it's gonna do is it's gonna add that every time to the big name. So,
Three things we don't need, and we don't need the right host.
exactly, we're gonna get rid of those. So I'm just gonna delete that. That's actually why it stopped, was the read host. That's what stopped the script. So let me back here. There you go. So basically what it concatenated, added to each value that it ran through to that same variable. And then at the very end there, I just
But doing it, just made a comma delimited string, you just put like tick marks and put a comma in there.
you can, but here's one thing. So you want to be able to, let's say, open it up in Excel, I'm assuming, write a CSV file. One thing that you need to do is when you append to that file, you want to save it as UTF-8 format. I learned that when I was started writing CSV files. If you don't select UTF-8, Excel isn't going to be able to open the comma separated value properly and be able to, your different fields, set it up in there in the correct form.
You can output the CSV location.
You can do that also, definitely.
Yeah, there's an export -CSV command like
Yep,
that will take data and export to CSV.
definitely.
So it does the UTF-8 automatically in that.
That one does if you use that. Yeah, definitely.
Can you ask what hasn't been shown? How about command output redirection or input redirection? And something that evidently seen can be done is command piping combination.
See, I was trying to stay away from piping since it's
Okay. It's not introduction. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I was staying away from piping because it confuses a lot of people when they're learning PowerShell, and that's the only reason.
Piping is the power.
It is.
That's the title of the class.
I mean, I agree with you, but even the scripts that I publish out of net, I try to stay away from piping because the reason for that is, and I know it's powerful, no doubt, but I want even beginners to be able to read my scripts and understand them. I don't want them to be confused when I publish them. So that's one of the reasons why I try to stay away from it, because to me, that's the one thing that I've seen that some people get confused on, is piping. But the only thing that I typically use piping for is when I'm, like for instance, if I'm sorting through an array, if I have an array of items and I want to erase everything out that's not unique, or if I want to sort it, I'll use piping on those. But that's the main reason I stay away from piping, and I want to cover it tonight because it is
Command redirect or input output redirection.
So you want to.
It's actually
Echoes.
You can do it the same as DOS actually.
Yeah.
You can use the
bracket
the
or
bracket
the greater than symbol. You can do it. He is right. You can do it exactly like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it has not changed in PowerShell. But that's the only reason I'm trying to.
But is that an alias for something else?
Is it?
I think it's an alias for out file.
That's right. You're right. It is.
Virtually everything that you do from another language is an alias in PowerShell.
Right, because it's
for a command.
Right, exactly. And basically a commandlet is nothing more than a series of commands that somebody has written out and made available to you to use.
For those of you Linux guys, it works with Linux commands too.
Exactly. I don't use Linux, but I've heard the same thing. Yeah.
Any other purpose media equivalents, but like if you do ls, it's the same as dir. It's the same as get child item. And if you want to know what the aliases are, it's get alias.
That's another thing I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's another thing I wanted to cover in here. I went over get item and stuff, but get child item is actually another good one that I wanted to cover. I'd forgotten about. So basically, when you come in here and you're gonna get an item. Get an item is basically, let's see. We're gonna do path, and we're gonna be back to the so basically that's my desktop directory. To get items is going to be more like a directory. So if you want to see the files under that, you're going to get the child item. So let me show you that. So what happens when I use get-child item? It gets all my list of files in the desktop directory. You can come back and it's the same thing that I was talking about earlier, like with your verb noun, you got the same things going on here with your get child item. Set your child item, remove child item. You can do all that to your actual files here. I'm glad you mentioned that because that was one thing I wanted to cover. So basically, your get item, basically you say like get item and then let's say desktop. It's going to get the properties of the desktop. If you want to get the files under it, you're going to get the child item, which is going to give you the list of files underneath my desktop. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
For those DOS guys, get or VIR, the get child item is what the ABC
It is. Yes, exactly. But I used VIR initially, but yes, it's the same thing. It just you have more options with it.
I've got a request, and I don't want to waylay you at all, but one of the things I'm going to try to be able to do, because I'm just getting in PowerShell.
Sure.
I want to be able, and this is going to sound stupid, but I've got to tell you, we'll be able to plug in my phone, which has one list of music, and sync it up with my computer, which has another list of music.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem I'm having is, partly I understand building an array and iterating through an array, but one of the things I'm struggling with is when I plug in my phone, it's a USB connect, and I can't find it. It's not mapped to a drive letter, and I don't know where to find it.
Don't check the mount.
So it should. Have you?
I didn't know if there was a way in Windows where it would.
What type of phone is it?
It's an Android phone.
Did you ever tell it to? What is it? There's an ignore. You can tell it to ignore it. Did you ever accidentally tell it to ignore it?
No. But I didn't know if it mapped it. So if it's on a Linux desktop, it'll map it. You know.
When you open it in Windows directory, you see it in the Windows directory?
No.
I've got a
Oh yeah,
transformer.
you do. Yeah, you do. But it's called phone. You know.
Sure.
I've got a transformer trio. You can put one side is Droid, the other is Windows. It's now Windows 10.
Yeah.
The only way to get anything back and forth is with an app written for this device.
Oh really?
Yes. You have to basically enable sharing on both, and I'm pretty sure, is it one way? It's easiest to use one way.
What kind of phone is it?
It's a very cheap Android
Very
phone.
cheap for
It's about 3 years old, so. But I just didn't know if the Windows architecture had some way. I know in Linux, it mounts it as a media file and you just move over to it. But I didn't know if Windows had something comparable that I just didn't understand. Or if you could show us how you would kind of do a for each loop and compare two directories, so the drives in each of them. You know, compare the files in each of them to see if they're synchronizing.
You know, I was wondering, because we had something at our school where, when we used the DevCon, that we basically could map out a USB layer, and it mapped it out as the actual address, like you see in the device manager. And we was enabling and disabling a number of speakers off of that.
Cool.
You could, I'm sure that if it connects on USB somewhere other than one.
I think it's somewhere in there, seeing it.
Somebody from the YouTube channel has a response. He said, be sure on the phone that you have USB set to transfer files or MTP mode.
Mhm.
By default, the phone is just going to set to charge mode and not mount as a drive.
Oh.
Yeah, it's MTP, but I don't.
It is. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack.
No, that's fine. It is a tech meeting, so.
But that is something I was trying to write in PowerShell, was to go in and you know, compare the two files, the two directories, and see what's the same and what's different.
So basically what you're looking to do is you would want to get a list of all files in one directory, get a list assigned. So basically the way you would do that is you get a list, child item list of all the files in the one directory, assign it to, let's say, a variable directory 1, and then do the same thing for your other directory, directory 2. And then what you're going to do is, and then you're wanting to see if there's any files in there that are different, or
Yeah, you want to see if the directory 1 is missing some of the files in directory 2, and if so, copy them over.
So what you would do on something like that, an easy way to start that out would be you would do 2 for each statements. You do a for each statement within a for each statement. You can do it that way. That's one way to do it. You know, where you iterate through your first set of for phone 1, you're going to iterate through every item in there, and it's going to come down and then iterate through all the other items, comparing. So phone 1, you've got your first file here. Now it's going to iterate through all the files in phone 2 and see if it exists.
Does PowerShell have a concept of arrays or lists or
Yes.
dictionaries? Okay.
Yes.
So you can just
You can,
Okay.
yeah, yes, you can do it
just the
like
array
that too.
contain this.
But just, well, the only reason I'm using for each, because if you're just starting, it's easy to do,
Okay. Yeah.
you know, a for each inside a for each.
Okay.
So basically that's how it works. So your first for each is giving you your first file item on phone 1, and then your second for each is going to go through all the items on phone 2, and then look to see if it exists.
Okay.
That gives you a good
Yeah.
perspective how they
Yeah.
do that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
There's a command program called xxcopy. You might want to do it. It's free.
Oh, really?
I haven't heard of that one, but there are some other ones out there that do directory comparisons, and I can't remember the name of them right off. But yeah, he's right. You can
work in raw data and just it's real fast. And you compare.
Yes.
Compare by dates or compare by size. Or, I mean, so you'll know.
Yep. Any other questions? Because I'm kind of like in the QA trying to see what y'all are looking for, and any other questions.
I do mostly data analysis, so I guess we use Oracle. So how difficult would this be to really connect to Oracle? And
That's a good question, because I have never, and I'll say right up front, I've never done any database programming, any connections into databases. I'm just not a SQL person on that. If anybody in here has, can you tell?
I've not made that connection, but I mean, you can get to like SQL Server using DIR because of the provider. So I would just see if Oracle has a provider for PowerShell, and that would allow you to tap right in.
I would think that they would have modules. Oracle should. I've never dealt with Oracle.
Look on their forums.
Mhm.
You'll find it there.
Okay.
But you do have to load the provider.
Right. Fun stuff.
And then you'll have to find the module that you're looking for, because there'll be a dozen or more.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Anything on mine, Tim?
Just a suggestion for you to recheck the drivers on your computer for your Android, but no questions for you, Mick.
Do you know if PowerShell is limited by the same folder and file length limitation that command prompt is?
You're talking about the 255 character limit?
I've got a build server that creates folder structures that I can't delete. And I was just wondering if I could go in there with PowerShell and clean
You
those up.
can.
You can.
Yes, you can. I've had to do that before. I had the same problem in my last position. I had a directory structure that went down to 280 some odd characters long, and we had the same problem. And I actually went in and wrote a script and deleted it out that way. Yes. That's any other questions? If that's no questions, I think that's about it. Because I don't want to overwhelm you all, put too much. Because basically, the whole prerogative here is I just wanted to show you the basics. Get out here. It's easy. It's not that hard to learn. It's just getting over that initial hump. And once you get over that, You can get out there and start scripting it, and you'll pick it up like that. It's pretty easy.
If you have not watched the videos on Microsoft's Academy,
Yes.
they have a basic set, which will take you a week to go through, and then they've got an advanced set, which will take you a couple of weeks to go through.
And Don Jones's Month of Lunches. That's an awesome book too, to learn PowerShell. That and the Academy classes, yeah, those two are awesome ways to learn this. And of course, the best way also is get out there and start doing it. That's the only way you're really going to learn it. Anybody in here going from like BD script or anything and going to PowerShell or?
We've got a bunch of path files with BD scripts.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna. I think that's about it for tonight. And I hope this helps and gives you all a good perspective on getting in there and using it. Hope it encourages you too. That's the whole idea. Any questions online, Tim? Or
No, we're good to go, sir.
all right.
Thanks a lot,
everyone.
Rick.
So the microphone picked up and somebody heard it online watching it live.
Yeah,
How many people are watching it?
it said that when I checked a half hour ago, we had 24. Yeah, a good turnout. If I can figure out how to turn off the broadcast, here we go. Stop.